This trail camera review is for the Apeman trail camera, model H60. Is it a bargain or bust? Let's find out. Alright, so in this review we're going to take a look at the H60 trail camera by Apeman. Amaze the world is the logo on the box. So the key features, it's 20 megapixels, it's got 120-degree detection angle, it's got 1080p full HD, and it's got a 65-foot trigger distance. So anyway, let's take a look on the inside. So the batteries go right in there. It takes 4 AA's, which we're going to use our typical lithium batteries. All right, I put some batteries in the camera and I formatted the card. Check out what happens when you turn it on. You get a little sound there. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to start off by using the photo mode, because what I like to do is I like to see how fast the shutter speed is when it's taking pictures. That's really going to help you on motion blur and things like that. Then later on we will take a look at the video to see how well it does, to see what frame rate it shoots in, 30 or 60, and again to see what the clarity of the video is. So anyway, this is just what the menu looks like as you scroll through it. So we're going to be taking pictures on 20 megapixels. It takes a micro SD card, which I'm not a fan of. However, that seems to be what the cameras are going to nowadays. Anyway, we will set this up and we will take some day pictures and night pictures and see what all we get. Okay, so the first picture, you can see it's got a pretty good clarity. But if we take a look at the shutter speed, you'll see it's a strange 1/395 of a second. That's a strange shutter speed, but it seems to have done the job pretty well. Our next shot is a little bit later in the afternoon, and there's a tiny bit of motion blur around the backside of the cat, and it's a little bit overexposed. There's a good bit of motion blur in this picture as well, and as a result the shutter speed is 1/149th of a second, which I believe is a little bit slow. There's a lot of motion blur in this, and we're at about 1/10 of a second for some reason. This shot's pretty good, everything's pretty clear, not a lot going on, not a lot of motion. We're at 2/10 of a second, so that's better than a faster shutter speed from the earlier shot. Another picture of them just sitting here eating, quite clear, quite good. And it has a little bit higher shutter speed at 1/113th of a second. Now our first night shot is pretty good. There's a little bit of motion blur, as you can see. It's not crystal clear and sharp. And it's at 1/30th of a second. And once again, another shot is at 1/30th of a second. And I believe that's probably what this camera does for every night shot. It uses 1/130th of a second. And for the video samples, it's pretty clear. It's a little bit jumpy, as you can tell. The color's pretty good. This is an early morning shot. As the day progresses, it's still a little bit jumpy, and our frame rate is at about 29.97 frames per second, or 30 frames per second. Another shot a little bit later in the day. The shadows are getting longer, but there's a lot of glare coming off the house on the other side. Now, this is the last shot before it goes to infrared, and you can see there's quite a bit of noise, and that's one of the reasons it's so grainy. Now this is the first infrared shot. It's a lot clearer. You can still see some light in the sky. It's not completely dark yet, and you can certainly tell what's going on in these images. This is a night shot. A little bit of glare coming from the front of the camera there. But again, you can tell everything that's going on. No problem identifying animals at all. Same with the opossum there. However, check this out. You can see quite a bit of pixelation going on. And that's probably from a lack of a really great sensor that some of the higher dollar trail cameras have. Again, you can see the pixelation actually moving in this shot. The detection time seemed a little bit slow. You can see the van got all the way across the frame before the camera was activated. We seem to have had better success with animals than with the car, so I'm not sure if this is just an anomaly or if this is actually quite a good evaluation. Now the sound is quite good. Listen to the crunching. Alright, so what I didn't like about the camera was I didn't like the tiny micro USB. In fact, I had some trouble getting it out a couple of times, but you can always use the USB adapter if this happens to you out in the field to download your images. I also found that the resolution and the shutter speed was a little wonky for me, but I think it's perfectly acceptable for most people who use trail cameras. Now what I did like was I really liked the battery keeper right here, because there's nothing worse than going out to check your camera. There's nothing worse than going out and checking your cameras when you have 1 or 2 batteries that come loose and you realize that you haven't been taking any pictures at all. I also like these super wide tree strap holders back here on the back of the camera. That's quite good. I also like the 2 tripod mounts, one on the bottom and one on the back of the camera. It gives you a lot of flexibility depending on exactly where you mount it. And I also like the fact that you have an extra wide image provided by the camera. That's quite good. It's a nice wide angle. A lot of times I'm down in areas where I have a very narrow path, and a wide angle really helps to get the animal as it passes by. So I would definitely say that this camera is a bargain. And the tipping point is actually the price. And right now it's at Amazon for about $70. And there's also a coupon, so it brings the price down to right about $50. So I think it's a great camera for an entry-level trail camera user or somebody who needs a lot of trail cameras on their properties. It's certainly cost-effective and it will certainly do the job.